A young woman raised an abandoned child, unaware that his father was a wealthy man. Years later, she fell in love and surprised everyone. Subscribe to our channel to hear more thrilling stories like this. The night had fallen over St. Petersburg, shrouding the hospital in a soft haze, with the dim glow of street lights casting long shadows. Anna Peterson, a 28-year-old nurse, was heading toward the exit after a long shift in the intensive care unit. Her dark hair was tied into a messy ponytail, framing her tired but kind face. As she approached the bus stop, a faint cry caught her attention. Anna stopped and listened. The sound came from the bushes near the hospital entrance. Her heart raced, but she cautiously approached, calling softly, "Hello," as she gently parted the branches. What she saw made her freeze. A newborn, wrapped in a worn blanket, was crying helplessly. Instinctively, Anna scooped him up and pressed him to her chest. "Shh, it's okay," she murmured, gently rocking the baby. Looking around for the child's parents, Anna saw no one. Without hesitation, she returned to the hospital with the baby in her arms. The next few hours were a blur. Anna reported her discovery, and the hospital staff examined the baby, confirming he was healthy but dehydrated. While the social services team took over, Anna couldn't take her eyes off the little boy. "He's a beautiful child," said Maria, one of the experienced nurses. "What do you think will happen to him?" Anna sighed, tenderly stroking the baby's cheek. "I don't know, but it hurts to think he could end up in foster care." Maria looked at her sympathetically. "Anna, have you thought about adopting him?" Anna fell silent, surprised by her own thoughts. "I've thought about it, but how could I? I can barely take care of myself." "Love can move mountains, dear," Maria replied with a warm smile. "And you have so much love to give." That night, as Anna returned to her small apartment, she couldn't stop thinking about the baby. She envisioned her life with him, struggles, joys, moments of doubt, and absolute happiness. She knew it would be hard, but something in her heart told her it was the right thing to do. The next morning, Anna made a decision that would change her life forever. She walked into the hospital with love in her heart. "I want to adopt the baby," she told social services. The following months were an emotional roller coaster and a bureaucratic nightmare. Anna fought with everything she had to prove that, despite her modest financial situation, she could provide a home filled with love for the little boy. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Anna held her legally adopted son in her arms. "Daniel," Anna whispered, kissing his forehead. "I'll call you Daniel, my brave little boy." As Anna rocked Daniel in her rocking chair in their small living room, she couldn't imagine the twists of fate that lay ahead. In that moment, there was only Anna and her son, united by a love that defied all logic and would change their lives forever. Time passed unnoticed for Anna and Daniel. Each day brought new challenges and joys, as Anna did her best to raise her adopted son with all the love and care she could give. The first few years were especially difficult. Anna worked double shifts at the hospital to pay the bills and provide Daniel with everything he needed. Many evenings, after putting her son to bed, she sat in the kitchen with a cup of cold tea, juggling bills and thinking about how to make ends meet. Yet, the love she felt for Daniel gave her the strength to keep going. Each smile, every new word he learned, every small achievement was a reminder of why it was all worth it. "Mom, look, I drew a picture for you," Daniel exclaimed one day, running over with a sheet of paper filled with colorful scribbles. Anna hugged him and kissed his chubby cheek. "It's beautiful, my love. You're a real artist." As Daniel grew, Anna marveled at his intelligence and curiosity. At just 5 years old, he was already reading fluently and asking questions that often left Anna speechless. "Mommy, why don't I have a daddy like the other kids?" One evening, as she tucked him into bed, little Daniel asked. Anna's heart sank. She had feared this question, but deep down, she knew it would come sooner or later. "Sweetheart," she said, gently stroking his hair. "Families come in all shapes and sizes. Some have a mom and a dad, others have 2 moms or 2 dads, and some, like us, only have 1 mom. But the most important thing is love, and you are loved so much," she added, her voice filled with warmth. Daniel paused, thinking for a moment, then smiled. "I love you, Mommy," he said, wrapping his tiny arms around her. "I love you too, my little lion," Anna replied, her voice trembling with emotion. Years went by, and Anna and Daniel settled into a comfortable, though often hectic routine. Anna continued to work hard at the hospital, earning the respect and affection of both her colleagues and patients with her dedication and kindness. Meanwhile, Daniel grew into a smart, loving boy. By the age of 10, he had become Anna's pride and joy. He excelled in school and showed a particular talent for music. Anna saved for months to buy a used synthesizer for him, and Daniel would spend hours playing it, filling their small apartment with melodies. Despite all her efforts, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that there were things she just couldn't provide for Daniel. She couldn't afford music lessons, or the summer camp that all of Daniel's friends were going to. One evening, as Daniel was already asleep, Anna sat on the couch, holding a photo of the two of them at the park. Daniel's wide smile, missing a tooth, and Anna's proud embrace captured a moment of pure joy. "I'm doing everything I can," she whispered to herself. "I hope it's enough." What Anna didn't know was that fate was about to take an unexpected turn. A new surgeon was coming to the Mercy Hospital, and his arrival would change their lives forever. Little did Anna know that very night, their world, and Daniel's life, would be turned upside down. The love they had built together would face tests they never saw coming, and long-buried secrets would rise to the surface, threatening to unravel everything they knew. The atmosphere at Mercy Hospital was buzzing with excitement. Whispers filled the halls, and curious glances were exchanged, all because Dr. Michael Anderson, a renowned cardiothoracic surgeon, was joining the staff. Anna, unaware of the commotion, arrived for her shift as usual. She was worried about Daniel, who had woken up with a slight fever. "Anna, have you heard?" Her friend Olivia caught her in the locker room. "A new star surgeon is coming today." "Yeah, I've heard something," Anna replied, getting dressed. "I hear he's even better than they say," Olivia exclaimed. "They say he's a genius and—" She lowered her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "He's handsome, and single." Anna laughed, shaking her head. "Olivia, you know I don't have time for that. My life is all about work and Daniel." "You never know, my friend," Olivia said with a knowing smile. "Love comes when you least expect it." Anna was about to respond when something in the hallway caught her attention. She peered out to see what was going on, and her breath caught in her throat. Coming down the corridor was the most handsome man she had ever seen. Tall, athletic, with perfectly styled black hair and deep brown eyes that seemed to hide a quiet sadness. It must be Dr. Anderson, Anna thought. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Anna felt a jolt of electricity run through her. Dr. Anderson seemed to pause for just a second, his gaze fixed on her, before his colleagues nudged him forward. "Anna, get a grip," Olivia's voice snapped her back to reality. "You see what I mean? Fate is a mysterious thing." Anna shook her head, trying to collect her thoughts. "Don't be silly, Olivia. Let's go. We have plenty of work to do." The following days were chaotic. Dr. Anderson, or Michael, as he insisted on being called, revolutionized the surgery department with his innovative techniques and relentless work ethic. Anna couldn't help but admire him from afar, impressed not only by his surgical skills but also by the compassion he showed his patients. One night, while doing her usual rounds, she unexpectedly ran into Michael in an empty hallway, with Nurse Peterson nearby. He smiled, and it made Anna's heart skip a beat. "Yes, Dr. Anderson," Anna replied, surprised he knew her name. "Please, just call me Michael," he insisted. "Why, I've heard a lot about you. They say you're one of the best nurses here." Anna blushed, unsure of how to respond. "I'm just doing my job as best as I can," Anna murmured. "And you do it excellently," Michael said, gazing at her intently. "I hope we can work together soon." With those words, he walked away, leaving Anna stunned, her heart racing with mixed emotions she couldn't quite explain. Weeks passed, and Anna and Michael found themselves working together more often. She admired his talent and dedication, while he appreciated her experience and compassion. Gradually, a friendship developed between them. However, Anna began to notice a deep sadness in Michael's eyes, especially when they worked with young patients. One day, after a particularly difficult surgery, she found him in the break room, looking lost. "Are you all right?" she asked, sensing a vulnerability in him that he'd never shown before. "It's just—" He paused, as if debating whether to trust her. "Many years ago, I lost my newborn son. Cases like today bring painful memories." Anna's heart ached, and without thinking, she reached out to take Michael's hand. "I'm so sorry," Anna said sincerely. "I can't imagine how painful that must be." Michael squeezed her hand in gratitude. "Thank you, Anna. You're something special, you know that?" Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, everything seemed to freeze. Anna felt a connection that went beyond friendship or physical attraction. This moment marked the first real spark. But reality soon came crashing back. "I need to go," Michael said, standing up. "Thank you for listening to me." As she watched him leave, Anna realized she was treading on dangerous ground. She was starting to feel things for Michael that she knew she couldn't afford. She had her own life to think about, with a son to raise, and her world didn't align with the life of a wealthy, famous surgeon. What Anna didn't know was that fate had other plans. Michael's past and the truth about Daniel were about to surface, and when they did, it would change their lives forever. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The friendship between Anna and Michael continued to grow stronger, despite Anna's best efforts to maintain some emotional distance. Every time they worked together, Anna felt an undeniable bond, a mutual understanding that words couldn't express. Daniel, now 11, noticed changes in his mother. One evening, as they sat down for dinner in their small apartment, the boy looked at her with curiosity. "Mom, why have you been smiling so much lately?" he innocently asked. Anna almost choked on her food. "What do you mean, sweetie?" she replied, trying to stay calm. "You just seem so much happier," Daniel said with a shrug. "Is it because of the new doctor you're always talking about?" Anna felt her face redden. "Has it been that obvious?" "Dr. Anderson is just a good friend and colleague, Daniel," she said, trying to sound casual. "But yes, I'm happy to have a new friend at work." Daniel nodded, but something in his eyes told Anna that her son understood more than he let on. Meanwhile, Michael was battling his inner demons. Every time he saw Anna with Daniel, a deep, inexplicable pain mixed with a feeling he couldn't quite define overwhelmed him. One evening, after a long day at work, Michael confessed in the hospital's cafeteria. "You know, Anna," he started, absent-mindedly stirring his tea. "Who would want to deal with all this emotional baggage?" Anna felt her heart skip a beat. She wanted to tell him that she would accept him for who he was, with all his past and scars, but she held back. Their situation was complicated, and she couldn't allow herself to dream of the impossible. "I think anyone would be happy if you were a part of their life," she said, a little surprised by her own boldness. Michael looked at her intently, as if he wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by another call. They were urgently needed. The next days at the hospital were chaotic, as a massive accident had left dozens injured, and the entire staff was working overtime. Daniel spiked a high fever, and Anna had to take him to the hospital. "Oh my God, what's wrong with him?" Michael asked when he saw Anna walk into the room, holding Daniel in her arms. "He has a high fever that won't break," Anna replied, worry evident in her voice. "Let me take a look at him," Michael said, leading them to the examination room. As he examined Daniel, Anna watched him with a mix of concern and admiration. The gentleness with which he handled her son, his confidence, and his precise movements, all of it reflected his expertise and compassion. Suddenly, Michael paused, lost in thought. "Anna, I need to talk to you," he said, shifting his gaze from Daniel to her. "I know this might sound unexpected, but I think we need to do a DNA test." Anna nodded, feeling the ground shift beneath her feet. If Daniel really is Michael's son, what does that mean for them and the family they've built while waiting for the results? The tension in the hospital was palpable. Anna was torn between hope and fear. On one hand, if Daniel was Michael's biological son, it meant he had found his long-lost father, something Anna had always dreamed of. On the other hand, did it mean she would lose her son? Michael, too, was torn between excitement and guilt. The thought of Daniel possibly being his lost son filled him with indescribable joy, but he also felt guilty for not finding him sooner, for all the lost years. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the results came in. Michael and Anna met in his office, both of them on edge with anticipation. "Anna," Michael began, his voice trembling with emotion. "The result? It's positive. Daniel is my son," Michael said, the words crashing over them both. Tears streamed down Anna's face as the realization hit her. I don't know what to say," she managed to whisper. Michael moved toward her and took her hands in his. "Anna, if you'll allow me." They looked into each other's eyes, both understanding that their lives had changed forever. But little did they know, this was only the beginning of a series of events that would test their love, loyalty, and ability to forgive. Fate had intertwined their lives in ways they could never have imagined. Now, they had to face challenges they couldn't predict. Michael closed the door, turning toward her with a serious expression. "My lawyer called me earlier," he said. "He thinks I should start the process of gaining custody of Daniel." Anna felt the floor drop out from under her. "What? But you wouldn't do that, would you?" she asked, her voice shaking. Michael ran a hand through his hair, clearly distressed. "I don't want to do this, Anna," he added. "But I have documents that prove my rights." They silently stared at each other, a heavy tension between them. "Anna, please," Michael stepped closer to her. I don't want this to turn into a battle. We can figure this out together. But Anna was already backing toward the door. I need time to think, she whispered. And I need to talk to my lawyer. She left the room, leaving Michael alone with his thoughts and a guilty conscience. The days that followed were filled with lawyer meetings and sleepless nights. Anna was torn between her love for Daniel and the growing resentment she felt toward Michael. How could the man she loved threaten to take her son away from her? Meanwhile, Daniel was confused and scared. He could sense the tension between his mother and the man who, he had just learned, was his biological father. Mom, does that mean I have to live with Dr. Anderson? He asked one evening, his eyes welling up with tears. Anna hugged him tightly. No, darling, no one will separate us. I promise you. But deep down, Anna feared she wouldn't be able to keep that promise. The case went to court faster than they had anticipated. Judge Ellen Roberts, a woman in her 40s, listened carefully to the arguments from both sides. Michael's lawyer argued that, as the biological father, Michael had the right to custody of Daniel. The lawyer presented Anna as a woman with limited resources who, despite her good intentions, could not provide Daniel with the opportunities Michael could offer. On the other hand, Anna's lawyer emphasized that she had dedicated 11 years of her life to raising Daniel, giving him all her love. He argued that separating Daniel from the only home he had known would be traumatic for him. As the trial progressed, the relationship between Anna and Michael began to deteriorate. The moments of closeness and mutual understanding they once shared now felt like distant memories, replaced by cold glares and sharp words exchanged in the courthouse corridors. One day, during a break in the hearings, Anna found herself alone with Michael in an empty hallway. "Why are you doing this?" she asked in a trembling voice. "I thought you loved me." Michael looked at her, his eyes filled with confusion. "I do love you, Anna. And I love Daniel. I just want the best for him," he added. "And you think that tearing him away from the only mother he's ever known is the best for him?" Anna replied, her voice bitter. Before Michael could respond, their conversation was interrupted by an elegant, cold voice. Anna instantly recognized the woman. It was Natalie, Michael's ex-wife. "Well," Natalie said with a smile, "how touching. A nurse and a doctor fighting over a lost child." Michael looked at her sharply. "Natalie, what are you doing here?" "Oh, didn't you know?" she replied with false politeness. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. There was something in Natalie's expression that made her fear the worst. And she was right. The next day, Natalie took the stand in court and revealed a bombshell that shocked everyone. "I knew where Daniel had been all these years," she said coldly, her voice calculated. "I left him at the hospital 11 years ago," she added. The silence that followed was deafening. Anna felt like the world had stopped moving. Michael, who had been sitting at the table, turned pale. "What do you mean by that?" the judge asked in a tense voice. Natalie smiled, her expression devoid of joy, sending a shiver down Anna's spine. "I'm saying, Your Honor, that I abandoned Daniel. Michael and I had problems. He was consumed with his career, never home. When Daniel was born, I was desperate. One night, I made a desperate decision. I left Daniel at the hospital, knowing he would be found and taken care of." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Anna looked at Michael, expecting to see shock or disbelief on his face. Instead, she saw a mix of horror and guilt. "Michael, you knew. You knew," Anna whispered, her voice filled with pain. Before Michael could respond, Judge Romanova banged her gavel, calling the court to order. "Do you admit to abandoning your child?" she asked, her voice laced with disbelief and condemnation. Natalie shrugged, seemingly unfazed by the gravity of her confession. "It was a long time ago, but I suppose there's a statute of limitations for these things, isn't there?" Judge Romanova glanced at the attorneys for both sides. "Given the new information, we will take a break," she announced. "I need to see both lawyers in my chambers." She struck the gavel again, and the courtroom emptied. Anna remained seated, stunned by this revelation. Michael moved toward her, but she held up her hand, stopping him. "Don't," Anna whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Don't tell me you didn't know." He looked at her, pain in his eyes. "I swear, Anna, I had no idea," he stammered, falling silent, unable to find the words. Before either of them could say anything else, they were called into the judge's chambers. The next hour was spent in legal discussions and negotiations. Eventually, Judge Romanova made a decision that shocked everyone. "Considering the exceptional circumstances of this case," she began, "I have made the following ruling. Custody of Daniel will remain with Anna Petrovna, his legal adoptive mother. Michael Anderson will have the right to regular visitation, the specifics of which will be determined later. She added sternly, looking at Natalie. I am recommending an investigation into the actions of Mrs. Natalie Anderson. Anna felt as though a massive weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Daniel would stay her son. She looked at Michael, expecting to see disappointment or anger on his face, but instead, she saw a look of relief. As they walked out of the courtroom, Michael approached her. Anna, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but could we talk privately? He asked, his voice hesitant. She hesitated for a moment before nodding, and they made their way to a small park near the courthouse. Sitting on a bench, Michael spoke first. First of all, I want you to know that I had no idea what Natalie did, he said, his voice breaking. When Daniel disappeared, I lost myself. I buried myself in work, trying to numb the pain. Shortly after that, Natalie and I parted ways. I couldn't have imagined she was capable of something like this. Anna listened intently, her heart torn between compassion and disbelief. But that doesn't excuse what I did, Michael continued. When I found out Daniel was my son, I was blinded by emotions. I wanted to make up for all the lost years. I didn't think about what would be best for him or about everything you had done for him all these years. He turned to her, tears welling up in his eyes. I'm sorry, Anna. I was selfish. I'm an idiot. You are Daniel's real mother in every sense of the word. I should never have tried to take him away from you. Tears ran down Anna's cheeks as she listened to him. Michael, I don't know what to say. You've hurt me and Daniel in ways I don't know if we'll ever recover from. I know, he replied, lowering his head. I'll understand if you can't forgive me, but I want you to know that if you'll allow me, I'll be involved in Daniel's life, not as a father trying to control everything, but as someone who wants to support you both, on your terms. Anna looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes despite the pain of betrayal she still felt. Part of her wanted to believe him. I need time, Michael, Anna finally said. I need to think about what's best for Daniel. He nodded, respecting her decision. I understand, he said softly. I'll respect whatever you decide, Anna, and I promise that no matter what happens, I'll always be here for both of you. As they stood up from the bench, Anna felt a mix of emotions, relief that she had won custody of Daniel, confusion over her feelings toward Michael, and a spark of hope for the future. Neither of them knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with challenges, but also with the possibility of healing and true love. The next few months were a time of adjustment for everyone. Anna, Michael, and Daniel started navigating the uncharted waters of their new family life. At first, Michael's visits were awkward and tense. Although Daniel wanted to get to know his biological father, he was cautious and often asked Anna for permission. Mom, can I spend time with Dr. Anderson? He asked, a bit embarrassed, adding, I mean with Dad, one afternoon after one of the visits. Anna felt a pang in her heart when Daniel referred to Michael as Dad, but she tried to remain calm. Of course, sweetheart, she replied. He's your father, and he wants to get to know you, but remember, you can always tell me if anything makes you uncomfortable, okay? Daniel nodded and hugged her tightly. I love you, Mom. You're the best mom in the world. Anna returned the hug, grateful for her son's unconditional love. Meanwhile, Michael worked on earning Daniel's trust and building a relationship with Anna. Each visit, every conversation, was an opportunity to show his sincerity and commitment. One day, during one of his visits, Michael noticed Daniel's old synthesizer. Do you like music? He asked with interest in his eyes. Daniel shyly nodded. Yeah, I love playing, but this synthesizer is really old, and some of the keys don't work anymore. Michael looked at Anna, silently asking for her permission. She gave a slight nod. What do you think about us getting a new one? Michael suggested. We could all go together, if your mom doesn't mind. Daniel's eyes lit up, but he immediately looked at Anna. Can we, Mom? He asked. Anna hesitated for a moment. Part of her wanted to say no to protect Daniel from possible disappointment in the future. But seeing the hope in his eyes and the sincerity in Michael's, she realized she needed to take a step forward. Of course, sweetheart, it'll be fun. Going to get a new synthesizer together became a turning point. Watching Michael and Daniel connect over their shared love of music, Anna saw them in a new light and, to her surprise, realized she liked it too. As the days passed, the visits became less awkward and more natural. Michael became an integral part of their lives, always respecting the boundaries Anna had set, but gradually becoming more involved in Daniel's world. One evening, after a family dinner when Michael had left, Daniel approached her with a thoughtful look on his face. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course, my love, what's on your mind? Daniel hesitated before speaking. Do you and Dad love each other? Anna was caught off guard by the question. She hadn't expected it. It's complicated, sweetie, she replied after a moment of thought. Your dad and I care about each other, and we love you more than anything in the world. But love between adults is something different. It's more complicated. Daniel nodded, processing the information. I just sometimes see the way you look at each other, like in those romantic movies you watch with Aunt Loli, he said with a mischievous smile. Anna felt herself blush. Was it that obvious? She thought. Daniel, listen, she said, taking her son's hands. I don't know what will happen between me and your dad in the future, but I want you to know that no matter what happens, you'll always be the most important person to me. To both of us, okay? Daniel nodded and hugged her tightly. I love you, Mom, and I love Dad too. I like it when we're all together. Anna hugged her son, feeling a mix of emotions. Daniel's words touched something in her, a yearning she'd been trying to ignore. That night, while Daniel slept, Anna sat on the balcony of their apartment, gazing at the stars. She thought about Michael, how much he'd changed over the past few months, how he'd tried to be a good father to Daniel and a friend to her. She remembered the moments they had shared during family dinners, the way their hands accidentally brushed when passing the bread, the meaningful glances exchanged when Daniel wasn't looking. Anna realized that, despite everything they'd been through, her feelings for Michael hadn't gone away. In fact, they had grown deeper, turned into something more mature and complicated. But the fear still lingered. The fear of being hurt again, the fear that it might not work out and that Daniel might suffer. While Anna pondered these feelings, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Michael. Thank you for today. Seeing Daniel so happy is indescribable, and seeing your smile fills my world with a light I never even dreamed of. Good night, Anna. Anna felt her heart race. With trembling fingers, she replied, Thank you, Michael, for everything you do for Daniel and for us. Good night. As she hit send, Anna realized they were standing on the threshold of something new, something exciting and terrifying at the same time. But little did she know, fate had one last test in store for them, one that would challenge their love, trust, and ability to forgive in ways they could never have imagined. Autumn came to St. Petersburg, painting the trees' leaves in shades of gold and red. Anna, Michael, and Daniel had grown accustomed to regular family dinners and weekend walks. Although Anna and Michael hadn't yet defined their relationship beyond friendship, the romantic tension between them was evident to everyone around. One Saturday afternoon, as they were strolling through the park after a picnic, Daniel ran ahead to play on the swings. Anna and Michael walked side by side, occasionally brushing hands. Michael began speaking, his voice heavy with emotion. I've been wanting to tell you something for a long time. Anna felt her heart skip a beat. Was this the moment she had been waiting for, and also the one she had feared? Yes, Anna replied, trying to stay calm. Michael stopped and gently took her hands in his. These past few months have been incredible. Seeing you with Daniel, seeing how we've become a family. I've realized that I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. Anna's breath caught as she looked into Michael's eyes. What I'm trying to say is, I love you, Anna. I love you like I've never loved anyone before. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving it to you. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes. All the emotions she had been holding back for months came rushing to the surface. I love you too, Michael, she whispered. I've fought this feeling for so long, but I can't deny it anymore. Michael leaned in, and a smile lit up his face. He slowly bent down, and their lips met in a gentle kiss. Just then, they were interrupted by a joyful shout from Daniel. Yes, finally, the boy exclaimed, running up and hugging both of them. Anna and Michael laughed and hugged their son. For a moment, everything seemed perfect, but fate had other plans. A few days later, while Anna was preparing dinner in their apartment, the doorbell rang. When she opened it, she came face to face with someone she least expected to see, Natalie, Michael's ex-wife. Hello, Anna, Natalie said coldly. I think we need to talk. Anna felt a chill run down her spine, but she didn't let fear show. I don't think we have anything to talk about, Natalie. Natalie smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Oh, I think we do, she replied. I want to know the whole truth about what happened 11 years ago. Anna hesitated but eventually stepped aside, allowing Natalie in. You have 10 minutes, Anna said, closing the door behind her. Natalie stood tall, her demeanor cold, casting a glance around the room with a barely concealed look of contempt. But the cozy little house, Anna remarked sarcastically. Natalie ignored her comment, arms crossed over her chest, her gaze piercing as she said, "Tell me, Natalie, what's this big thing you've been dying to share?" Natalie smiled, a calculated icy grin that made Anna shudder. "You see, darling, the story I told in court wasn't entirely true," Natalie began, fiddling with her delicate pearl necklace. "Yes, I left him in the hospital. But it wasn't just because I was desperate." Anna's heart skipped a beat. What could be behind such a tragic story? "Go on," Anna said, trying to keep her composure. "Michael and I had problems long before Daniel was born," Natalie continued. "He was obsessed with his career, always at the hospital, always with patients. As for me, well, let's say I found comfort in someone else's arms." Anna felt a tight knot in her stomach. She could already sense where this conversation was headed. "When I found out I was pregnant, I wasn't sure who the father was." Natalie paused, her words hanging heavily in the air. "But Michael was so excited, so happy, I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth." "Then why did you leave him?" Anna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Natalie sighed theatrically. "When Daniel was born, it was clear he was Michael's son. He had the same eyes, the same birthmark. I panicked, knowing that if Michael ever found out, I'd lose everything. So, I made a desperate choice." Anna could feel her legs weakening. "Why are you telling me this now?" she asked, fearing the answer. "Because, dear Anna, I see how you look at Michael," Natalie said with a twisted smile. "I see how he looks at you. And I can't let you be happy with the man who took everything from me." There was a fire in Natalie's eyes. "I'll tell Michael the whole truth, the doubts I had about him, how I considered an abortion, how I left Daniel out of fear he would find out about my lies. And when I do that, how do you think he'll look at you, or at me, without thinking about what I did?" Anna felt her anger building. "You're a calculating woman, Natalie. How can you play with people's lives like this?" Natalie stood up, smoothing out her dress and smiling coldly. "It's simple, darling, if I can't be happy, no one will be. Especially you, with my ex-husband and my son." Before Anna could respond, the door suddenly opened. Michael stepped in, his smile fading into shock at the sight of Natalie. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice tense. Natalie smirked triumphantly. "Just in time, darling. I was about to reveal some very interesting family secrets. Why don't you join us?" Anna glanced at Michael, her eyes pleading, but before she could say anything, Natalie began spilling every detail of her story. Michael stood there, silent, his face growing paler with each word. When Natalie finished, the room fell into a deafening silence. Anna wanted to speak, but Michael raised his hand, stopping her. I need time," he said, his voice shaking. He didn't say another word, turning and leaving the apartment, leaving Anna and Natalie alone. Natalie smiled with satisfaction. "Well, my job here is done. I wish you the best, Anna, or whatever is left of it." With that, Natalie left the apartment, leaving Anna alone with her thoughts and fears. Anna collapsed onto the couch, her face wet with tears. How did it come to this? Just when she thought happiness was within reach, it all came crashing down. Hours passed, but Michael never returned. Anna tried calling him several times, but each time her calls went straight to voicemail. When Daniel came home from school, Anna forced a smile, pretending everything was fine. Later that night, after tucking her son into bed, Anna sat alone on the balcony, staring at the city lights. Her mind was filled with endless questions. Where was Michael? What was he thinking? How would this affect their relationship and their newly formed family? Just as she was starting to lose hope, her phone vibrated. It was a message from Michael. "Sorry I left like that. I needed time to think. Can we meet tomorrow?" Anna's hands trembled as she typed her reply. "We need to talk a lot," she wrote. "Of course, I'll wait for you." Gazing up at the stars, Anna silently prayed their bond would be strong enough to weather this latest storm. She had no idea that fate was about to throw them another curveball, one that would change their lives forever. The next morning, the sky in St. Petersburg was overcast and rainy, as though the weather mirrored Anna's mood. After sending Daniel off to school, she returned to her apartment to wait for Michael. Each passing minute felt like an eternity. Finally, at exactly 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Anna opened it to find Michael standing there, his hair disheveled and dark circles under his eyes, signs of sleepless nights. "Hi," he said in a hoarse voice. "Hi," Anna replied, stepping aside to let him in. "Please, come in." They both sat down on the couch, and a heavy silence filled the space between them. Finally, Michael spoke. "Anna, I don't even know where to start," he said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. I remember everything Natalie said yesterday. It was as if my whole world turned upside down. Anna nodded, her heart racing. I understand. It was a shock for me too. Michael looked at her, his eyes filled with a newfound determination. But last night, as I was walking around the city trying to sort through my thoughts, I realized something important, he continued. None of what Natalie said will change how I feel about you and Daniel. Anna felt her heart skip a beat. What do you mean? She asked, barely daring to hope. He took her hands in his. I mean, I love you. I love you and Daniel. What Natalie did was awful, but that's her issue, not ours. Daniel is my son, no matter what history Natalie and I had, he added. And you're the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes. I was so afraid this would change everything between us, she whispered. Michael pulled her into a tight hug. Nothing will change how I feel about you. If anything, this made me realize even more how much I love you and how much I want us to be a family. He pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. Anna, will you be my wife? Anna gasped, overwhelmed by the unexpected proposal. Michael, are you sure? He smiled, his expression filled with love and certainty. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I love you, Anna. I love Daniel. I want us to be a real family. Anna's heart swelled with joy. Yes, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Yes, I'll marry you. They kissed, their lips sealing a promise for the future. But their moment of happiness was interrupted by the doorbell ringing. They quickly pulled apart. Are you expecting someone? Michael asked. Anna shook her head and stood up to open the door. To her surprise, she found herself face to face with a police officer. Anna Peterson? Asked the investigator. Yes, that's me, Anna replied, feeling Michael step closer to her, offering support. Sorry to disturb you, the investigator continued. We're here regarding a child abandonment case involving your son, Daniel Peterson. Anna felt a chill run through her. What's going on? Michael asked, his voice tense. The officer looked at both of them. We've arrested Talia Andersona for child abandonment and obstruction of justice. During questioning, she provided additional information that we believe you should know, the officer said. Anna and Michael exchanged bewildered glances. What information? Anna asked, her voice trembling, fearing the answer. The investigator pulled out a folder from his bag. According to Andersona's confession, she wasn't acting alone when she abandoned the child. She had an accomplice. Accomplice? Michael repeated, his disbelief clear. Who? The officer took a deep breath before responding. Dr. David Thompson? Anna gasped when she heard the name. Dr. Tikhonov was her mentor when she first started working at the hospital. He had always been kind to her, even supported her decision to adopt Daniel. But why? Anna whispered. The officer opened the folder. According to Andersona's confession, Dr. Tikhonov was the man she had an affair with. When he found out that the child was actually your son, Michael Anderson, he helped Mrs. Andersona abandon him and cover it all up. Anna and Michael stared at each other, stunned by this shocking revelation. Everything they thought they knew had been turned upside down. What does this mean for us, for Daniel? Michael asked, his voice full of concern. The investigator closed the folder. Legally, it doesn't change anything. Anna Peterson remains Daniel's legal adoptive mother, and you, Mr. Anderson, remain his biological father. But we thought you should know, especially since Dr. Tikhonov is still working at the hospital. Anna felt dizzy. Dr. Tikhonov, the person who had supported her all these years, was involved in this from the start. After the investigator left, Anna and Michael sat in silence, trying to process all the information. I can't believe this, Anna finally said. All these years, Doctor? Tikhonov knew the truth and never said a word. Michael wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. I know, it's hard to accept, but remember what I told you, Anna. None of this changes us as a family. If anything, it makes us stronger. Anna looked up at him, seeing the determination in his eyes. You're right, she said, feeling a new strength rise within her. We're family, and nothing and no one can change that. They snuggled closer, reaffirming their bond not just as a couple, but as Daniel's parents. What do we do now? Anna asked after a moment. Michael smiled, his voice full of love and hope. Now, darling, we'll go pick up our son from school and tell him that we're officially a family. Anna's heart filled with joy. Sounds perfect, she said, taking Michael's hand. As they left the apartment, Anna realized that despite all the twists and hardships she had faced, she had finally found her place. With Michael and Daniel, she had everything she had ever dreamed of. A family full of love, understanding, and forgiveness. The road ahead would be challenging, and there would undoubtedly be more obstacles. But now, as a family, Anna knew they could handle whatever fate had in store for them. Under the clearing sky, Anna and Michael walked towards their future, ready to share the news with Daniel and start a new chapter of their lives. When Anna and Michael picked up Daniel from school, the boy immediately noticed something was different about his parents. Their smiles were brighter, and their eyes sparkled with suppressed emotions. "What's going on?" Daniel asked, his curiosity piqued as they walked toward the nearby park. Anna and Michael exchanged a secretive glance before sitting down on a bench, Daniel between them. "Sweetheart," Anna began, taking Daniel's hand. "We have something important to tell you." Daniel looked at them expectantly, his wide eyes filled with curiosity. Michael spoke up. "Your mom and we're together now." The boy nodded, a faint smile spreading across his lips. "Well, here's the thing," Michael continued. "Your mom and I love each other a lot. So much that I asked her to marry me." Daniel's eyes widened in surprise. "Really?" he exclaimed, looking at Anna for confirmation. Anna nodded, her eyes welling up with happy tears. "Yes, sweetheart." And I said yes. Daniel fell silent for a moment, processing the news. Then, suddenly, he jumped up and hugged both of them tightly. "Yes. We're finally going to be a real family," he cheered, and Anna and Michael laughed, holding their son close, feeling like the perfect circle of love and unity. "We already are a real family, sweetheart," Anna said softly. "Now it's just official." The next few months were filled with events, wedding preparations, work at the hospital, and daily life with Daniel. Anna and Michael barely had a moment to catch their breath, but every single day was filled with love and anticipation for the future they were building together. The wedding was simple yet emotional, held in a beautiful garden surrounded by their closest friends and colleagues from the hospital. Anna and Michael made vows to each other, promising eternal love. Daniel, dressed in a little suit that made him look like a mini version of Michael, grinned. When they were announced as husband and wife, Michael pulled Anna into a kiss. The guests erupted in applause, and cheers of hooray filled the air. But for Anna, the sweetest sound was Daniel's joyful laughter when he rushed over to hug his parents right after the ceremony. During their first dance as husband and wife, Michael whispered in Anna's ear, "Are you happy, my love?" Anna looked at him, her eyes shining with joy. "More than I ever imagined," she replied, gently pulling him closer. As the night went on, Anna couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. It felt like just yesterday when she found little Daniel abandoned on that cold night, and after years of struggle and sacrifice, she was finally here, surrounded by the love of her family. And all the recent drama that nearly tore everything apart seemed like a distant memory now. In the end, love had triumphed. The love of a mother for her adopted son, the newly found love of a father, and the love between two people who had found their soulmate in each other. Laughter filled the yard of their home as Daniel, now a 16-year-old teenager, played with his 4-year-old sister Sophia. Anna watched them from the porch, her hand resting on her rounded belly. Beside her, Michael wrapped his arm around her waist, his face glowing with happiness. "It all worked out just the way it was meant to," he said. "But I wouldn't change a thing about our journey. Every obstacle, every challenge, led us here." Anna replied, nodding as she remembered everything they'd been through. The trial against Natalie and Dr. Tikhonov had been difficult, but it had brought the necessary closure. Both were convicted, and although the process had been painful, it had also brought a sense of relief. Daniel had grown into a strong, compassionate young man, who shared his love for music with Michael and inherited Anna's caring nature. The arrival of Sophia had been a surprise joy, and now, with another child, Anna's heart felt like it might burst from happiness. "Mom! Dad!" Daniel called, interrupting her thoughts. "Come play with us." Anna and Michael smiled at each other. "Let's go," Michael said, taking her hand. As they walked toward their children, Anna reflected on how the love that saved an abandoned child had set off a chain of events, creating this life full of love and happiness. "Thank you for listening to our story," Anna said to the audience. "Please leave your thoughts in the comments and share what touched you the most. Don't forget to subscribe to our Heartwarming Stories channel and share this video with those you hold dear. It inspires us to create more stories filled with warmth and sincerity, just for you. Stay with us, there are many more heartfelt stories ahead. See you soon, and thank you for being part of our journey.